All right, so recurring theme, unfortunately. Wait, what? You waiting on me? You acted shocked.
No. Oh, no. No. This is recurring theme.
All right, so stop me if you've heard this one before, Jay.
Oh, okay.
There is a chip shortage in...
And we ain't talking potatoes.
That's right. In not just the automotive industry, but it is causing huge problems in all across all companies in the automotive industry. We've heard stories in recent months from Ford. Some of it now is affecting the Bronco, the F-150, so on and so forth. They're all, the Camaro was put on hold, the Mustang was put on hold. This is happening across the boards. Toyota seems to be the only one right now that is less affected by microprocessor shortages. So
because they learned.
So let's start with GM. Now,
Go for it.
I find this interesting for a couple reasons. Number one, the guy lives in my hometown. I'm telling you, this is a problem, man. When I can open up a random news story from the Detroit Free Press and read about a guy that lives next door to me, somebody's got to move. There's too many people moving here. Okay.
Right.
Okay. But I digress. General Motors retired employee Joseph Jones bought a 2021 Sierra pickup, full-size pickup. Okay. And I'm sure he knows the drill because he's a former GM employee. He tracked the production of it. So, they've got product stages and they can kind of tell you where your truck is in the production stage.
Just like a package delivery, man.
Yep.
You give you a little control number and that's what you use. Yes.
Yep. So he saw that it was built in the middle of February, so 3-4 months back. And, He's
down in Mexico.
Made in Mexico. Yep, at the Silao assembly plant. Okay,
Yep.
And May rolls around, still doesn't have his truck. Okay, well, how long does it take him to build these trucks? I mean, we were talking. That's 3 months now that we're
Yeah.
So he starts asking questions, I guess, and he's of course aggravated, disappointed. But they're calling this, what's the term GM is using?
It's called a build shy strategy. So in other words, build the vehicle to the point to where you can get it to that next step for final production.
And then you just park it outside.
You just park it outside. And
wait.
Just sits there and waits and waits and waits. Yes. And, right now GM is saying that they have about 15,000 trucks parked. From the Fort Wayne assembly plant in Indiana. They build the full-size light-duty Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra pickups. They have about 15,000 trucks parked at a bedrock quarry. There is another one in Troy,
Missouri, which is, now this is super creepy. Okay, we're going to bookend this story with where I live now. And where I grew up. That is 12 miles from my hometown. They were in our high school conference, Troy Trojans, if you must know.
Right.
Okay. And I'm getting a little weirded out here.
Is it kind of a rural area?
Oh, it's extremely rural. So,
okay, well, let me ask you this then. Okay, so, and you have trees, right?
Oh, yeah.
You have grass, fields.
Yeah.
Wildlife, right?
Yeah, you want to see pictures?
Squirrels.
I can show you some
like
pictures.
Squirrels and squirrels and maybe field mice and rats and those sorts of things. Yeah.
Birds that poop. Yeah.
Birds that poop
all
and
that.
sort of stuff like that. Yeah.
Not to mention rock quarry dust. I know that quarry. I know the quarry.
Right.
I'm looking at it.
Well,
in the
you know
picture
where
here.
I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
You know what? This is a buyer beware situation too, guys. All right. Look, if you leave vehicles parked way too long sitting out in the field waiting for a part to come in to finally, let's just say it's sitting out there for a month, 2 months. That, if it doesn't move, then there is wildlife that tend to kind of make their homes.
I had the same thing happen on my last Z car that I bought from a dealership. And it got kind of weird where, so it was a rare model that I was going after. I had some Nismo stuff on it, but it was the Roadster, so they didn't make a Nismo Roadster. So anyway,
right.
So it was a rare production limit. Like they didn't make but just a couple hundred of them that year.
Right.
And so I found one. I literally told my local dealer where it was. They went and got it. Mm-hmm. I show up to buy the car and sign the paperwork, and the guy was like, "Don't be late. Don't be late. We have this signing time window for you of, whatever it was, 30 minutes. And I'm just telling you right now, you're going to mess things up if you're late." So we get there 30 minutes early. The guy comes out and he's like, "It's not quite ready yet." Hour later, it's still not ready yet. And at this point, I'm going, "What's the deal? What's the deal?" Mm-hmm. So it had been left sitting on a dealer lot with bird poop on it for months. It ate through the paint.
Right.
And now we're talking brand new car with paint damage.
Right.
And I was like, this is body work, dude. This is body work. You're no longer are you selling me a new automobile. Now we're talking a car with body damage.
Now, here's the other thing.
So I bought that car twice.
Right.
Because I signed the paperwork, and then they pulled that crap, and then we tore up the paperwork. Mm-hmm. It went back to the dealer that they acquired it from. Then I approached that dealer 3 months later, or not that long, probably 3 weeks later, and said, "Hey, I know you've got this car. I know it's got body damage. I tried to buy it. So at this point, you have a car back on your lot that's unsellable as a new car. Let's talk. I still want the car."
Awesome.
And
Good
they
for
went,
you.
"Yeah, okay."
You didn't know I was going here with this, did you?
No, not at all.
Because this is this kind of stuff that people don't pay attention to. I mean, this is going to affect some of the vehicles that are parked out there. It won't happen to all of them.
But it will happen to some of them.
But inevitably
Yep.
it will happen to some of them. And I'm going to tell you this. If you don't know that squirrels and field mice and rats love to nest in these environments, they like them because they love to chew on wiring. They love wiring. Wiring tastes good to these little critters, man. And I'm telling you.
Let me add something else because I know this area. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there is not a GM assembly plant in Troy, Missouri. Okay? Mm-hmm. Do we have any idea how many vehicles are sitting in Troy? I mean, I'm looking at the picture here, and it's a lot. Okay?
Let's see.
It's a lot.
It's
like
part
it's
of
more than a car dealership lot.
Okay, so the bottom line, it says that General Motors is storing several hundred Chevrolet Colorado and GMC Canyon midsize pickups and full-size vans where they await parts to complete production at the Wentzville assembly plant.
Perfect.
So it's the Wentzville plant.
You're making my point for me. So the only GM plant near this is in Wentzville.
Right.
I graduated from Wentzville High School back when there was only one.
Okay.
I toured that assembly plant.
You have your date of birth and social security number,
I'll
please,
go ahead
sir?
and put it out there for Zuckerberg, okay? I got the opportunity, and I think it was the early 80s, to tour that assembly plant when it was first opened.
Right.
As a kid. It was a big deal, okay? That is not next door to this quarry in Troy, Missouri. So they are transporting these or driving them and putting miles on them, one way or the other.
Right.
That's a lot of cars to transport on a highway. Right. So that's a 20, 25 mile distance between.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And they got to move them back.
And keep in mind, folks, because they're doing this because of microchip shortages, okay? Semiconductor shortages, right? So they're building them to the point to where they can probably drive them. They're drivable. Mm-hmm. In some cases, it might be part of the fuel management system for emission controls that still, the vehicle can still run just fine. It may not meet the EPA standard for emissions. That's why this semiconductor comes into play, or this chip comes into play. But they're also leaving off like high-end accessories in some cases, maybe to add at a later date. What do? Give you a voucher when you buy the thing, come back in 6 months and we'll install it. I don't know how they're going to handle that.
This is not okay.
It's not. Oh, and here's something else that they have in Missouri, Keith. They have, some not so attractive, severe weather that likes to kind of frequent those areas.
Yep.
Tornado Alley. You got hail. Huge hailstorms come through there. These things are just sitting ducks, man. So I'm telling you right now, folks, if you are buying a 2021 model, 2022 model, make sure you are very aware of its history And you as a consumer have the right to ask those questions and find out what the origin is.
Yeah, now specifically these that we're talking about in Missouri, that's the Canyon in the Colorado. That's what they build at that plant.
Canyon, Colorado, and they are also some full-size vans as well. So,
so I've got family. Well, I probably shouldn't say this. Never mind.
So that's one part of this. But now, we just touched on this. They're leaving some high-end features off of some of these vehicles because of the chip shortage. Renault, for example, has dropped their offering of an oversized digital screen behind the steering wheel on its Arcana model to save chips. These are the kinds of things. So the creature comfort stuff, the infotainment systems, nav systems, etc., which are not critical components to the function of the vehicle. It's more of a creature comfort. They're going to get left off. And again, how are they going to deal with that? Let's say I wanted that. Is that going to drive their sales down because they can't offer that option? Or are they going to say to them, we're going to give you a voucher, you pay in advance, and as soon as we get the accessory in and we can install it successfully, you bring it back to the dealership.
That's a massive undertaking. I mean,
absolutely it is.
Who has the staff to do all that retrofitting at a dealership?
They don't, and that's the thing. They are putting dealerships really, really on the spot here and making it harder and harder and harder for them to sell a vehicle. This semiconductor thing is a trickle-down effect that you hit on several weeks ago when we were talking about this initially, about if the auto industry ain't doing so good, the economy ain't doing so good. And I'm telling you right now, we've only begun to see the tip of the iceberg of the problems of this global semiconductor shortage has caused.
So we have some data on that, which go ahead and take us into what the Intel executive says. But before you do, I just want to
watch this interview with him.
I want to offer a couple thoughts here. Number one, it feels to me, and I understand why, because we have to hit our sales numbers so the economy looks good. Okay,
right?
Because if GM starts reporting more trouble, that ain't good. And by the way, they came out and projected very strong spring sales this year. So there you go.
Right.
So we're focusing on quantity over quality.
Right.
I'm just not a huge fan of that, man. That's going to burn them in the long run. They're going to lose sales in the next generation over shoddy workmanship in this generation.
Yeah, I had this conversation. They're going to lose. Yes, they're going to. I was intending on purchasing a new vehicle. I mean, I'm looking at stuff, and because there's so much new stuff coming out. I'm not now. I had that conversation with my wife last night about this subject. Told her that we were going to be discussing this, and I said, I know you want a new vehicle, but I think we need to hold off for a little while until they get this figured out.
This is going to sound crazy, and those of you that are like big money strategist fans might like cringe when I say this, but if I had to do it now, I would do like a business lease on a high-end automobile where it was like because I wouldn't. The lease is up. I'm giving that car back. Like I'm just not dealing with this long term. It's going to be a problem.
I do believe that to be the case. Yes.
The other thing I wanted to point to, there was an infographic that I saw here from Deloitte, who's a big research accounting firm.
Right.
They do a lot of audits, and they're showing that the average percentage of a car that contained the total cost of a new vehicle. Okay. In 2000, the year 2000, of that total cost of a new vehicle, 18% of it was for electronics in the car. Okay.
Right.
By 2010, it was 27%. By 2020, it's 40% of the total cost of any new car that you buy. 40% of that is electronics. Deloitte projects that by 2030, 45%, almost half of that vehicle expense is going to be due to electronics.
And is that going to be all? I mean, is that covering the entire sector, or is that the gasoline powered vehicles? I mean, where's that at with the EV world?
Yeah,
right? Electric vehicles, because it could be even higher. of a percentage of those being used in that. So
Jay, those don't require maintenance.
yeah. I seem to hear someone say that or a comment somewhere that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the bottom line, Pat Gelsinger, who is the CEO of Intel, who is the major player in
that Intel, make computer processors.
Right?
Yep.
Exactly, and with whom Apple just walked away from with going off and going to make their own chip. Is that a good decision for them? We don't know yet. Only time will tell. But they still have stuff in the pipeline that they're dependent upon these guys to supply because they still have to make computers. They're not like 100% inclusive with their chips yet. But you have to understand, man, that the dominance in the industry has dwindled so much that only 12% of the world's semiconductors is done in the U.S. Okay, it was 37% 25 years ago. So we moved all of that manufacturing to Asia. Basically, is where they go. I'm sure Asia and maybe like India, countries like that, where they're manufacturing these things. So for someone to think that there is a short-term solution to this, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. Intel is one of the only ones that are really, and they are just like overwhelmed, man. And it kind of all started when the pandemic hit. The demand went up because consumers were buying a bunch of home gadgets and stuff like that. And it doesn't stop at the auto industry. I mean, we're talking appliances,
doorbells. My son wants a new refrigerator that's got the like calendar thing.
I mean, drones, phones. I mean, anything. I mean, remote controls. I mean, they're in them. They're everything. Televisions, computers,
all of
whatever.
It. Microwaves, all of it. All those smart devices with speakers on them. I mean, there's very few things in your house now, that don't have some. They're not pushing for an automated version of.
Right, and here's where this scares me the most, Keith, and it should scare all of you consumers as well out there. Is that if they're going to be able to catch up, they may have to use alternate sources for the chips to install them to get the stuff. It's a money thing, man. It's you can't just leave these vehicles sitting around for 5 years waiting on Intel to catch up. Now, the CEO says that we are probably 2 years away from really gaining
from Intel
from gaining any ground on this and really getting back to some sort of normalcy. That's how far behind the eight ball we are right now.
And the reason is because these plants that manufacture the microchips, the microprocessors, they are operating at or near capacity, meaning pedal to the floor, 90 to 100% of operating efficiency, and they did have a little bit of a supply on hand, but that got exhausted last year during the COVID shutdowns.
Right.
So is this going to be another early 80s car era where, you know how we had a lot of regulatory stuff that was imposed in the early 80s and the cars were just not technologically capable? They were kind of crap.
They were. And, you hope not, because we've come a long way. We've got a lot of advancements out there in regards to quality assurance, how we can test these things. The automotive industry has said, once these things come in, we're going to bring them back and we're going to, finish the vehicle, but they're going to go through a massive QA process to make sure everything functions. I don't know how they're going to be able to do it.
That's pull that off.
Right. I mean, you're making all these vehicles that you can't sell because they're not finished and they're just sitting out here, and then all of a sudden you get chips in and you're gonna be able to do this. I don't know. What we do know is that they've had to shut plants down. One of the recent ones was the Ford Bronco, the Ranger. They've shut that plant down.
They're doing some of these like they'll do rolling shutdowns. Like they'll shut this plant down for 2 weeks and then they'll spin it back up and then they'll shut that plant down over there for 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, unfortunately, guys, when we said this, we podcasted about this recently, that there's going to be models that will be killed off because of this. There will be your beloved Camaro may no longer be around.
It's going to come down to whatever sells and is the most profitable for that manufacturer, and that's where they're going to keep their production stood up.
And can I hear a I told you so real quick?
I hate to say I told you so.
Trust me, man, sedans ain't going to be coming out. It's going to be the trucks. They're going to be building trucks, man, because that's where the market's at. The market is growing exponentially in the sales of trucks. And then we just recently added, some import subcompact or compact pickup trucks to the list as well. If you don't think that the market is moving towards pickup trucks, you haven't been breathing any of the oxygen that's available on this planet. Period. Yeah, that's right. Ka-ching, ka-ching, right? Man, is it ever going to come back? I mean, hey, us, podcasting equipment, video equipment, it could affect us at some point.
It already has. Yeah.
Well, it has to some degree, but if we have something that break, I mean, I've been shopping for certain things that they're going to be not available for months, and that's just a forecast.
Well,
that could change in 2 months.
The mustache wax application, bro. I mean, that's your own weird thing, buddy.
Right.
While we're on that subject,
right.
Head over to our website at partscounterguru.com. Hit all one word, even though I stumbled through it. Click the Amazon banner at the top. Support the show. Doesn't cost you anything to do that. I know you crazy people all shop at Amazon anyway, so we get the affiliate referral. Yeah. And then while you're there, hit that podcast tab. You can find the full program and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. Of course, on this video, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can hit the subscribe button, click the bell, and you will be notified if and when production does resume on some of these vehicles. You can bet that we will let you know. So thanks, everybody, and we will see you on the next one.